All right, we're back now to the continue the learning the Dvar Malchut of the Rebbe. Dvar Malchut, the royal words of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Dvar Malchut. And the Rebbe is explaining over here in a very, very concentrated way, a very, very, how do you say, powerful way, the whole goal of the world and of Judaism, and especially of Chabad, that the Rebbe took it on himself, that this goal, why God created the world, why the Jewish people exist, will be brought to its fruition. And that is to bring Moshiach. And the Rebbe, he is the Moshiach. He's doing the work of the Moshiach. This is exactly what Moshiach is supposed to do. But the world is in pretty bad shape, and Moshiach is supposed to change all that, and he's supposed to build the third temple, which the Rebbe has not done yet, obviously, and he's supposed to make all the Jews return to God, which in a revealed way, we don't see this has happened, even though the Rebbe said that it has. That we have the quantum mass has already been achieved of Jews that are doing God's will. That's what the Rebbe said. But the Holy Temple is not here, and the Jews are still scattered around physically and spiritually. So we still have something left to do, and this is what it is. The Rebbe says, what do we have to do? We have to go into Paro. Now, Paro is evil. Paro is the source of evil. Power is the source of, what do you call it? Denial of the creator of the universe. Paro. Denying the creator of the universe. A person can ask, what's so bad about denying the creator of the universe? If you ask that question, then it's a sign that Paro has succeeded. Paro has succeeded. That's what Paro wants. Everyone to say, what are you talking about, creator of the universe? Leave me alone, right? Who needs a creator of the universe? Let me just live my life. That's Paro. That's what Paro wants. Insensitivity to the creator and total sensitivity to myself. I feel, I want, I think, I know, I care, this. Right? Paro is pure selfishness. And the more selfish you are, the better. That's Paro. Nowadays, there's huge movements, things, selfishness, there's Scientology and there's other things, right? Pure, uninterrupted selfishness. How to be ultimately selfish. That's Paro. That's Paro. Basically, a very unhappy life when it comes right down to it. And that Moses, he wants to defeat Paro. Not just take the Jews out of Egypt. God could have taken the Jews out of Egypt in a second. He wants to transform some other part. That's why there were 10 plagues and why they were so complicated, because it deals with these 10 aspects of selfishness, of evil. Okay, but surprisingly, in our Torah portion, it starts off, Bo, that's the name, Bo, come into Paro. And the Rebbe says, hey, you know where Paro comes from? You know where he comes from? He comes from God. There's nothing outside of God. This power of opposing God, being selfish, this comes from God himself. Egotism, destruction, selfishness, sin, whatever you want to call it, all these things come from God. There's nothing outside of God. So if so, it must be that somehow or other in the source of these things, it's godly. And in some way, it must be a very high type of godliness. If God can do this thing to conceal himself, well, how does that fit in with God? This is really a big mystery. So if we can get to the source of that mystery, that's a very high thing. We can fix up Paro. We can fix up Paro. We get to the source of what Paro is. We can get this. Of course, it's very dangerous, right? There were people that tried to do this, and they failed disastrously to the Jewish people. Right? That was the idea of Shabbatai Tzvi and these other people, false messiahs. But on the other hand, true Messiah is the essence of Judaism. You have to believe in the Messiah. You don't believe in the Messiah, you deny all of Judaism, deny the whole Torah. So it's a tricky business we're in here now. So God says you got two options. One is you can avoid Paro, you can avoid Paro, lock yourself up, but that's not the purpose of the Jewish people. The Jewish people is somehow or other to deal with the world, but not everybody can do this. And we're going to see that even Moses couldn't do it. That's why God said, I'm coming with you. So it says, now we can understand what it says, Boal Paro. In the Zohar, in our Parsha, it says, Boal Paro, like the Paro, this is, God told Moses to come into Paro, to come together with him to Paro as he was below. Paro was a person sitting in this palace. Makasiv Bo, what does it say? Boal Paro. What does it say? Go Paro. It should have said Lechel Paro. Go to Paro. What does it say? Come to Paro. My Bo. What does it mean? Come into Paro. Right? It's like I'll accompany you. Let's stroll into Paro. Ella the ILA, the Kodesh Baruch Hu, the God took Moses, Idrin, Bater Idrin, chambers into chambers. This is Aramaic. The Gabi, Tanina, Chara, up to this great serpent. Ilah Tkifa, this supernal, powerful serpent. The Kamadargin, Mishtalshlin, Mine, and there are many, many levels that come from him. Uman Iu, what is this secret of the great serpent? Right? What is this? This is the secret of the great serpent. Moshe Dachilmin, and Moses was afraid. Follow Karivin, he didn't want to come close. El Lagabi, or Yorin, he could just come close to the lights that came from this source of evil. Of Lagabe, but to go to the evil itself, Paro, Dachil, he was afraid. Follow Karavin, he didn't want to come close. Because the Chamale, he saw Mishtorish Bishroshin Elohim, because he saw, it was shown to him, this upper source of evil. Even the Chamakodesh Baruch Hu, and so since that God he showed him this, Dachil Moshe, Moshe was afraid. And he fell back. And he couldn't go up to this level. Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu, so God said, Hinani Alecha Paro. Behold, I will take you to Paro, Melech Mitzrayim. A Tanina Gadol, the big serpent. A Rovitz Tach Betochayor, that he was crouching in the river. Kodesh Baruch Hu Itztarech La'ag Chalei. And he had to Achara, I think accompany him and make him come close, and no one else. Kamodat Omer, like it says, Ani Hashem, like it says, I am God. Kolomar, in other words, so God had to take Moses. Moses got to this high level. Moses is a person, a human being, right? Moses didn't want to die. Moses is going to go up to this high source, and it's too awesome. He couldn't do it. The source of evil is so tremendously high. The source of evil is not evil, but it's some sort of a level of the essence of God that has this potential of evil. Kalomar, or in other words, Shebegalala Tokef the Etzem Klipas Paro, because of this power of Paro. The Paro was the great serpent, Bebeto, in his house, Ba'armon Amelech, and when he was in the palace of the king, that's what's called the source from the upper sources of God, of Paro. As Pachad Moshe was afraid to go in. And therefore, God didn't say, go into Paro, but he said, come with me. Sheyavo Yachad. He went together with God. Yikanas to Paro, and he went into Paro. Okay, does this make sense? We'll try to make sense of this. Kodesh Baruch Hu, Machnis Oto, God took him together with him, El Panemius, to the inside, the Etzem, and the essence of the clip of Paro. Idrin Bater Idrin, chambers after chambers, Chadarim Lifnim Michadarim, rooms inside of rooms, in order to conquer him totally. La'agcha Bekarova. Oh, that's what he says. La'agcha Bekarova, that you can, defeat him in war. Well, according to this, We have to understand, what does it mean, Boel Paro? What does it mean, come into Paro of Kedusha? Okay. So the Rebbe is saying like this, listen. God wanted Moses to defeat Paro. Okay, ask a question. This whole business makes absolutely no sense. What type of a story is this? This is some sort of a Greek mythology or something. God is one of the characters, and evil is another one of the characters, the big serpent, and Moses is one of the characters. Okay, you want to say that Paro was a character, good. Moses was a character, good. Okay, you understand. But what God is one of the characters? What does that mean? We just finished explaining that God is not a person, and that God is infinite, and that God creates all being. So what does it mean that God was helping Paro? So, I mean, you can ask another question. What does it mean that God helps us? We pray to God. God answers our prayers. I thought God was infinite and that God was almighty and he was above. What does he care about little things like us? I'm asking, but God is dealing with the upper stratas, or what are the upper spiritual levels. And yet some simple person says, Ata Shemea Tefilas Kol Peh, right? Some simple guy in who knows where in the middle of some castaway country that nobody even ever heard of before, in the middle of Europe or Asia or Africa or someplace, right? And he cries out to God that he needs something for his wife, and God answers his prayer. How can it be that we affect God? We make a prayer and we affect God. How can that be? So there's some people say that we really don't. That we really don't. Even religious Jews. Well, you can't affect God. What are you talking about? Okay, that's not what Chassidut says. Chassidut says that God is an active partner in everything that we do, and that God cares, and that we are created in God's image, and that God has love for us, and God has awe for us, etc. Like we just finished learning. And God put us into this world. The world is according to very, very deep and exact, and if you want to call it eternal principles. And that's why the Ten Commandments, which is the revelation of the essence of God, how does it start off? I am God that took you out of Egypt. Why didn't it say I am God that creates the whole world? I am God that creates all being. Right? I am God that creates the spiritual. I am God that took you out of Egypt, as though that Egypt was a big deal for God. Egypt was a separate entity from God. God is bragging that I even took the Jews out of Egypt. God creates Egypt. He creates the whole world. The world is nothing to God, right? He says, yeah, sort of right, but not 100% right. Because God made the world in such a way, the reason he made the world is so we would make the right choices. And sometimes it's very, 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 very difficult to make the right choices. Impossible. Sometimes it is impossible to make the right choices. Impossible. The only way we can do it is if we pray to God. We have to have God's help. And really, if you think about it, there's nothing you can do on your own. Everything you do has to be with the help of God. Everything. You have to do it all yourself. But it's with the help of God. And after you'd finish doing it all yourself, if you think about it, you realize you really didn't do anything. That God was creating you all the time. God was enlivening you, right? You're in the middle of doing something, whatever, making the right choice. All of a sudden, God forbid, you get a toothache. That's it. You're finished. The whole day is finished. Your week is finished. Okay, you can't think. You can't talk straight. Just, I got to get home. I got to. It's just so amazing. Our body works and everything like this. So really, God is doing everything. But the fact is that God wants us to do it all on our own. That's the way the world goes. So we have to do it all on our own. But we have to pray because we need God's help. And without God's help, we can't do anything. Anything except maybe make mistakes. I mean, once in a while you can, do good things, but you have to have God's help. That's the fact. And whether you ask for God's help or not, God helps sometimes people that don't even care. They don't even want it. Here is Moses. Moses wants to get to the source of evil. He wants to. That's how God set up the world, and that depends on self-sacrifice. But it wasn't in Moses' power. He couldn't do it. It was too impossible. And God said, "I know it's impossible. 100%. You can't do it, but I'll help you. I want you to be my partner, and I want to be your partner." God said to Moses, "I'm going to take you into Paro. according to this, as the Rebbe, we have to understand. Now, this is also for us. This is also for us, because we said everything that's in the Torah is also inside of us. And everything that in the Torah that's bad, there's also on the side of good. Also on the side of good. And also everything that's good, there's a mirror in the side of bad. So inside of us, there's a paro, and there's a paro, which is selfishness, like we said before, but there's also a good side of paro. And we said the paro of Kedusha, which that's what we talked about in the second paragraph, that's paro means to be revealed. Et pariu vitgalin mine kolin orim. Priya means to be revealed. Revealed godliness. Okay, now let's take this whole story and let's reverse the whole thing. Instead of talking about evil, let's say it's talking about good. There's the good side of paro. And that's what God is commanding us. Oh, he's commanding us to go into the source of good. The source of, because in the end, everything, the source of good creates everything. But let's forget about the bad stuff for a while. What about pure good, pure godliness, right? Let's not fight any battles. We're just going to do good, higher and higher good, the source of all good. That's what God says. Come with me into paro, to this holy revealed level. No. So let's go a little bit further. God says, come with me. I'll take you into this paro of holiness, pure good, revealed good. Now, how does it work in the Torah? It says that Moses was afraid. The whole portion is called bo. Come with me to paro. You can't do it alone. No, if we're talking about doing something, coming into the source of evil, I can understand it. But why do we have to have God's help to go into the source of good? Why be afraid? Why would Moses be afraid to go into the source of good? Kodesh Baruch Hu should say, come with me into paro. Maybe can we say here's an exception? Everything there is in the Torah that's bad, it has good, except for this. This is the only exception, right? Because here it says that Moses was afraid to go into the source, so it must not be talking about something good. It says not the Rebbe. Don't make up your ideas. Don't make up ideas. There's everything in the Torah that says bad. There's also the side of it of good. And when every Jew has inside of himself a paro. Paro means total revelation of godliness. It also means evil. Don't take that road of total evil. But on the other hand, there is paro in its essence is revelation of pure good. And that's why Moses was afraid to go there. Why? Why was Moses afraid to go to good? What does that mean? The explanation is like this. Paro the Kedusha, this idea of paro of holiness, this is what, like we said before, Giloi Achinala de Elokus, the highest revelations possible of godliness. Even higher than it was in Mount Sinai. This is like the raising of the dead. Remember, we learned last week. We're talking about the essence, the essential revelation, Giloi Kol Oros, the revelation of all of the lights of God, including the highest and highest levels of godliness, Kol Nahorim v'Kol Butzin, all the lights and all the flames, all the fire. Everything that was concealed becomes revealed. I mean, I know a lot of Jews. Thank God I'm not one of them. But they live their whole life for going to heaven. That's the deepest thought that they've got. I'm going to do everything to go to heaven. And this is a very, very powerful motivation. And it keeps a person on a straight line. Because if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to go to hell. And this is a very, very, how do you say, a powerful goal in life. And positive goal in life. Here the Rebbe is saying, it's peanuts. Simply nothing. You should be ashamed of yourself. That's what you're doing, Torah and the commandments for, to go to heaven. We're talking about the source of God, the essence of God, paro of Kedusha, holy paro, the source of all the lights, the source of all life and revelation. That's who we're connecting to when we do Torah and the commandments. Can we get up to this level? Oh, going to heaven, yes. This high level, we're talking about, the raising of the dead. What about now? That's what this Torah portion is talking about now. Somehow or other connecting, Bo El Paro, come to this highest essence level of godliness. And the Rebbe is telling us this because He's not trying to just show us how much he knows and how far away he is from us and impress us. He's telling us that this is within our reach. And also the Piriu, what does it mean, Perua? It will be revealed. Now, Perua means to be revealed, but Perua also means wild. Miloshan Bli Seder, Perua. Totally above any sort of order whatsoever. And even more. The Rebbe talks a lot about shtut de kedusha. You have to be crazy, but it has to be in a holy way. He brings an example from the Talmud. We'll talk about this. And there was something totally, how do you say, totally unusual. At Puriel v'idgalim minei kol naorim. There's revealed all of the lights of goodness will be revealed from this level. This comes from God's essence and God's very essential being, like in the language of the Zohar. Beit Paro, Beta, the house of Paro, means the house that is revealed and opened up. From it, all of the other lights and spiritual levels in the world. Kodesh Baruch Hu Afik, the God emanates, Kol Nahorim, all the lights from this level of Paro, of holiness. Shabbat, but in the house of the king is found the king in all of his essence. Shekain Orhu, that the light is Mitzad Atzmo, is Mugdar, the light of God. This is, we can say, defined in some sort of a revelation. And all the levels of lights of God, heaven and things like that, are drawn out from this light. They come in a certain order. That's all these Kabbalah books write about. This revelation on itself, the revelations that come from God, are in a way which is orderly. So it's understood, in order that there could be revealed all of these lights of God and everything that was concealed, which the Rebbe is trying to tell us somehow or other, this is within our reach. That everything which was concealed, things which could not be revealed, which had to be concealed, the open in the way that it would be opened up, l'mayla miseder v'adraga, in a way which was, how do you say, free for all. Harizet tzorich labo mi'atzmos, it has to come from God's essence. Shehu ha'makor, that God is the source of all of these lights. Like the Zohar says, etzem paro, the kama dargin, the many levels came from paro. So just that there is in bad in the world, so there is also in good. V'yachad mizem, together with this, makor, because it's such a source that it's totally above any sort of lights or revelations of God. And therefore there comes all of the other lights, all the revelations, all the levels of holiness, they come from this aspect of God, which is called paro. According to this, now we can understand why Moses was afraid. Why? Because Moses saw that this revelation of holiness was so high, it came from the source of all reality, the source of all good, the source of all being. Therefore, he was afraid to go. Why? Because it was too disorderly. He wasn't oriented to such a thing like this. Yeshno gilei etzem the paro, to revelation, the essence of what's called paro, of holiness. Shekein nivra mugbal, because Moses was just a creation. He was a soul and a body. He couldn't get to this. So it's something like a regular person, even the high priest going into the Holy of Holies on a regular weekday. You couldn't do it. You could only go in the special time. It was too much holiness. Well, the essence of godliness that God wants to show Moses is even higher than that. This is higher than any of the revelations of God's essence. How could a human being go up to such a high level? But in a way that's, and not only will it be such a high level, but the level will be revealed in a total disorderly way. It says, in and yorin, these lights, the in and dargin delay, and all these other levels of godliness will be revealed. And at once. Giluim the Seder Ishtalshlus, all of the revelations that make up this world, God wanted to take Moses to the source of the whole business. All of the other revelations in the world, Moses was able to receive. Look, and therefore, Lo Pachad Moshe, Moses was not afraid. Like Yeshad al Paro, Moses was not afraid to go into Paro. Moses went up on Mount Sinai. He spoke to God. Nobody could go that cliff. By Moses, it was like the giving of the Torah for 40 days when he was on Mount Sinai. He did it 3 times. He didn't even eat, didn't sleep. But this is a whole different business. On Mount Sinai was the essence of God that was giving the Torah. Here is something even higher. Therefore, when all the other times that Moses went to Paro, as these were all revelations from Paro, so he wasn't afraid to go in his house. How much more so when he went and met Paro when he was coming out of the river of a Kapisha Paro, but as Paro is in his very, very essence, Nimsa Babeso is in his house with all of his power in his inner chamber, then the revelation of the essence, we're talking about the good side of Paro. Moses was afraid. Because a human being, a soul and a body on his own, he couldn't get to such a high level. Yesh Lomer, we can say that this is also hinted in what it says that Paro said to Moshe, Lech mi alai, get away from me. He shomer lecha, you better watch out. Al tosef rot panai, you shouldn't see me, you better not see me again. Because the day you see my face, you will die. And Moses said, okay, Kain Debarta, I agree. Lo osif ros v'nech, I won't come and see your face. Now the word face also means inside. Okay, now I know that this is a little bit sort of confusing because Paro is the ultimate bad, and now we're saying that Paro is the ultimate good. We're not talking about the same Paro. We're not saying that evil is good. God forbid. But what we're saying is that everything that's found in the Torah for bad is hinting at some sort of a level which is good. In addition to the fact that everything that exists comes from God, and there's only one God. So bad itself comes from, in its essence, comes from good. But on the other hand, bad is bad. But now God is talking about, you want to come into the real source of Paro, the whole concept of what Paro is. Paro, the physical Paro, he took it in the wrong way, made it evil. But I'm showing the source of Paro that you can make it this the source of all good. And Moses said, what is the source of all good? He says, nothing like you've ever seen before. It's a source of all being, of all good, of all, and Moses, he knew what it was, what it was talking about. He knew it a little bit about, he spoke to God at the burning bush. Moses was afraid. Now we can understand, even to see the source of all good, it was too powerful, too good. Moving from this, we can understand Dvar Paro, the words of Paro. It's something like these people who they win the lottery, and they win. You won the great, what is it, the Powerball or something like that. $400 million. The guy have $400 million. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to $400 million? And what's he going to do? What does it mean? $400 million. And all of a sudden, his family finds out about it. I mean, it's so good. He can do so much good with $400 million. He can do a lot of good with this money. It's a source of a lot of good. But on the other hand, he can do a lot of bad with it also, right? He gets one bad advisor, says $400 million. You want me to tell you what to do? For starters, buy 400 bottles of the best vodka and let's drink the whole thing in one night. Huh? Good idea? Wow, that sounds really like fun. That's it. He finished his life. Right? How much did he spend? He spent $1,000 on each bottle of vodka, right? So he spent $400,000. He's got all this millions and millions of dollars left. He can't use it. Too much good. The havdil to separate. This is the source of the source of the source of all good in the world. It was too powerful for Moses. Moses was just a human being. He couldn't get to the source of the source of creation, the essence of good. From this, we can understand that according to Paro, when Paro said, that's what hinted at. Paro meant go away from me, because if you see me again, you won't live. This is talking about, and this can also especially be related to the holy aspect of Paro. It's just too high. Harizeh, as it is in holiness, is Harizeh Tov B'Shleimus. It's ultimate good, but it's just too much. Inyan B'Zeh Shekivan, that this, since the revelation of the power of holiness is above any sort of limitation, and it's revealed in a totally, how do you say, like a flood of good. Therefore, more, he said, the day that you see my face, you're going to die. Because of the level of Moses as he was, a soul and a body. He wasn't able to receive this level of Rot Panecha, of Paro, the inside of Paro, to see the Panemius, the inside, the face, from which comes all lights of good. Moses couldn't see it. A revelation which is above Medida v'Hagbala, any limitation. This is only going to be more, so Moses thought, as the soul always is above limitation, not being in the body. Maybe if I die, I'll go up to this level. I can see Paro, but I don't want to die. Moses said, I don't want to. You told me you have to take the Jews out of Egypt. If I die, how is it going to happen? It's too scary, too frightening. So Moses didn't want to go to this level of good, too much good, as we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow, how we can, in fact, achieve this meeting with the essence of good. So the Yom Yom for today. The second Rebbe answered someone who came in for a private audience. When two Jews discuss some topic in serving God, and especially if they learn together, then there's two divine souls against one natural soul. There's natural soul, the natural soul of a person by its nature is separate, selfish. And the godly soul by its nature is godly. It wants to join to the Creator. So if there are two Jews that are talking about holy subjects, then that increases good. On the other hand, if there's two people that are talking about natural things, everybody usually is just talking about themselves. So therefore, two people talking about holy things, then it's two units of good, and each one is separate. So there's two against each one separately. Two divine souls against one natural soul. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow, 8:15 tomorrow morning. Hope to see you all. God bless you with Moshiach now, and we'll take questions 1 minute.